Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament, shows you how the words of Jesus were passed down from his earliest disciples into your hands today. This has been filmed in multiple countries across 4 continents, and this gripping film captures all the drama, the danger, and the divine power behind the book that changed the world.
Many people have set out to write accounts about the events that have been fulfilled among us. We did not follow cleverly devised stories, but we were eyewitnesses of His Majesty.
Well, Erin Zimmerman is with us now. She is the writer, the director, the producer, the everything of Oracles of God, and then so many other films from CBN Films, and she's here with us now. So tell us, how did Oracles of God start? What was the spark that said, okay, I've got to do this film?
Basically, the spark was God telling me to do it. I cannot claim credit for this idea as well. I was living in Israel and working on a line of projects that I had to do while I still lived there. And I just sort of had a fleeting thought, I wonder what's going to come after all of these. And it was, honestly, it was like lightning through my head. Nothing like that ever happened to me. Creation of the Bible. And my reaction was very Jonah-esque. No.
Not me.
Absolutely no. Not me, Lord, please, anybody but me. And I really felt, my first argument was, I don't know anything about that topic. And my second argument was, well, that's been done before. I like to do things that no one else is doing. And I really felt the Lord say to me, well, why don't you go watch the movies that have been done? And so I did. And every single one that I watched was done from the perspective of the Bible cannot be trusted. It's been translated and copied too many times to be trustworthy, you know. And my favorite, the patriarchy had these secret gospels and they hid them and they kept them out of the Bible from us. And, doesn't everyone love a secret gospel? So when I watched all that, I said, okay, Lord, I know why you want this done now. There's a real hole here that we need to fill. There are beautiful books on this topic. I didn't see a movie that covered it in a way that I thought was honoring to the Word of God and really told the truth.
Why have those ideas taken a hold of our culture? I'll just say, probably even before Dan Brown came out with his critique, it's like, well, we can't trust the Bible because it was assembled centuries after the events, and it's all sort of myth and made up, and there's so many errors. How in the world did that get into our culture and get so embedded that people, literally the average person on the street, thinks that?
Well, it really started in the 1700s in Germany with higher criticism. That is, really, people didn't question it until then. So for 1700 years, everybody was kind of cool with the Bible, until they started just picking apart every part of Christianity, and that sort of bled into the rest of Europe. It came over here, and I have found in the people that I've read that subscribe to this, they've had something happen in their lives. And there's a theologian that I won't name, but he was trained with the best theologians in America. He had something bad happen into his life, and he got really bitter. He became an agnostic, and yet he is still teaching in a university, in the divinity schools, writing books on biblical manuscripts from his sort of bitter, divorced from Christianity viewpoint. And so I think people like that have done a lot of harm here in America. All the questioning, it comes from some bad thing that's happened to them, really.
Well, you've gone through for lack of a better, an epic journey to get us this film. I mean, that spark was all the way back in 2017. Yeah. So there were budget problems. There was COVID, a pandemic that completely shut it down. And then when you finally got shooting, a war. So at this point in time, what's sort of your greatest memory of this journey? We can talk about all the problems, but what was one of the most memorable successes of it?
Actually, the problems caused the successes. This was the single most rewarding, personally and professionally, experience of my life. And there was a point after October 7th, that's when I really said to God, okay, come on. We've been in Israel all summer. We got to the point we were supposed to start filming on October 9th, 2023. 2 days before that, in comes Hamas. And I said, okay, God, I get it, but why did you have me here? Why did you have us do all the work only to have to shove it all in a warehouse? It seems like a waste of time to me. And two things happened. One, the Lord spoke to me and said, it's important for you to be here on October 7th. I didn't realize this, but I did during the course of this. It is really important to my Israeli cast and crew that I was there. And I was the only American in the cast. They were all Israeli. It was important to them that I was there with them and not afraid to come back, not afraid to work with them, not taking my production to Greece or somewhere else. This was important, and this spoke to them, and they all told me that. So great, that was God's will. But another great thing that happened is, who knew that this was going to be what the Wall Street Journal calls the golden age of Bible publishing right now? So back in 2017, I was thinking I'll knock this thing out in a couple of years. But now that it's releasing, we have this unbelievable interest in the Bible now. Bible sales last year were up 22%. This year, after the Charlie Kirk assassination, up 36%. So what an amazing time to release this movie. God knew what he was doing.
And the interest is fascinating to me. It's primarily young men who want to, I heard from a pastor just last week saying, well, what they really want is a continuity with the past so that they can build that into a family and into generational legacy. They're rejecting what modern society is telling them they can be or should be, and saying, no, the ancients had it right. I want to get back in touch with that. What do you want people to take away from this film?
Well, I'm looking at the series as a whole. This film is a great, nice, easy introduction to the New Testament. We're not going to get super deep and controversial in this one. Everybody loves The Chosen and House of David and these biblical stories. So we're just going to go back and say, what is the origin story of these stories? How did we get them? How did Matthew and Mark and Luke write things down? Paul, James is one we take particular focus on, James, the brother of Jesus, because the Bible doesn't tell us a whole lot about him. Just that he was Jesus' brother, didn't believe in him. Then there's a really key verse. It's a tiny little part of the Bible. It says, after his resurrection, then Jesus appeared to Peter and to James, then to all the apostles. So what was that appearance like to James to change him from a non-believer to the head of the first church ever in Jerusalem? So the church fathers have given us a little story, a little background on what that story was like. So we put it in the film. Well,
it's one of the fascinating scenes in the film, because you do have just that little mention from Paul, and it's a singular one. He appeared to James as an isolated event. The way he writes it, it's like the entire world knows about this. This isn't something that's been hidden, but yet from our modern standpoint, looking back, there are very few sources for it. So how did you construct that scene? What were the prime texts for that?
We go straight back to the sources of the church fathers, which kind of sounds like a bunch of old graybeard men, but these guys were the ones that were fighting, that were writing down the basic tenets of Christianity and forming them, and some dying and some being persecuted for them. So they were, to me, they were heroes. And wow, did they leave us a goldmine of information. A lot of them lived right there in Judea. A lot of them lived a little bit further out, but they all knew these stories passed down from generation to generation. So I found a great story by a man named Hegesippus. Everybody knows that one. Yeah, he's a big one.
I'm just trying to master Eusebius and okay.
And the great thing is a lot of it, but Eusebius was a great one too, because a lot of these writings were lost in the 1st century, but this guy Eusebius in the 3rd century had written them all down in his writings, and his writings survived. So I found this amazing story, not just about Jesus' visit to James, which, you have to watch the movie to see it, but also the death of James, which was a very, he was basically a Christian martyr, and it was a bit of a graphic death, so.
Well, he's such a key figure because the Gospels do record that as a brother of Jesus, he was, not a believer. He's like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing us all. So after the resurrection, Jesus goes out of his way to personally appear to him. And then James becomes a leader of the church in Jerusalem, recognized by none other than the Apostle Paul. So that transformation of a close relative from skeptic to beyond believer and a writer of one of the books in the New Testament. What would you encourage churches, Bible study groups, families to do? The movie opens Sunday. How can they experience it together?
For sure. I would say go buy tickets. This is an amazing lesson, and I like a little drama with my academic knowledge. Like Mary Poppins says, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So if you're going to give a lot of knowledge out there and a lot of facts, I love to put a lot of reenactments in there and a lot of drama. So it's a great drama. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes long. Go see it. Go take your pastors. Encourage your church to go. You can take your kids to go see this one. It was funny, we got sort of a movie review that said, well, there's a little alcohol use. It's Jesus at the Last Supper. There's a little upper male nudity. It's the crucifixion. This is okay for your kids. We do not have the big violence in this one. This is a great story. What happened after the stories in the Bible? How did we get these stories?
All right. Aaron's done a marvelous job weaving together both drama, you really get immersed in a first century experience. It's all shot on site in Israel. The locations are all authentic. Everything you're going to see is exactly as it was in the first century. Erin has absolutely done her homework, and I'm a super fan. I love all of her films. So you can experience Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament. Is starting this Sunday, and it's in theaters nationwide, just 3 days, November 2, November 3, November 5. Moviegoers will also get an exclusive first look at the next action-packed installment of this series, because there's more to come in Oracles of God. So be sure to get your tickets. Go to cbn.com/tickets, and if you don't get them online today, you can always just show up at the theater on Sunday, Monday, and next Wednesday, and you too can experience a wonderful film. Once you see this film, you're never going to read the Bible the same way again.